Well, if thinking of the team, I am the commander, and for over half a year now, we have a foundation, official foundation, where at the moment I'm the president. We are constantly going from Poland to the front line of Ukraine in Donbas region. Our location, of course, I cannot tell you exactly the exact location because of safety, but it is in proximity of Bakhmut, which I think most of people already know where that is. And yeah, we've been trying to keep our rotations of at least 3-person teams constantly, and just to rotate with each other. So at least one team is there fighting for the lives of soldiers and civilians in that region. We're trying not to go straight into the, let's say, zero zone. So we are not sitting in the trenches with most of the positions with the Ukrainians, but we are working in the fire zone as well. So, of course, it's not as bad as being in the trenches, but it's also very dangerous. And unfortunately, we are being shot at and targeted a lot of the time. And well, I wouldn't say we got used to it, but yeah, in a way, we already know what we're going for and what we can count for. And yeah, as you probably already heard, medics are being a target. There is nothing that can stop the Russian side from aiming at the medical teams, the medical buildings, structures, and everything that is, well, medical, basically. And we are not really using any, crosses, any marks of being a medical team, because it just would probably kill us faster. This specific conflict is much different than the ones we were used to before. We based our knowledge and tactics and medical knowledge as well on Afghanistan, on Iraq. And most of it is still applicable, definitely. But because it's so different as well, we don't really have a lot of specifically shot wounds, but we have loads and loads of shrapnel, and these wounds are much worse, so that is very problematic to treat. Also, loads of bleeding, of course. Well, that's every war, every conflict. This is, well, constant. This is the same. But what is different is all the medical evacuation, all the transports, all the, let's say, prolonged even field care points, they all get prolonged even more. Every transport is being prolonged, every evacuation, everything just takes much, much longer. It's a big problem to evacuate some of the soldiers from the trenches in the mean of hours, like it has happened before in most conflicts. And sometimes you have wounded soldiers with the tourniquets being on the limbs for, let's say, 3 days before they even can be took out of the trenches and even just taken to our stabilization point, which is still in the shooting zone, which is still very close. And we still have to, stabilize them and take them to the frontline hospitals. So it's all taking loads of time. Our medevac from the stabilization point to the hospital is usually 1 hour. Mostly it's not a medic evacuating from the trenches, because it's like super dangerous, and we don't have a lot of medics because most of them got killed. So they're really needed in the next phase, in the next sector. We didn't really go inside the city there was no really urgency and place for us there. Part of the team actually said that if there was a big need, we will come, we will go. So there was a decision made there, but fortunately for us, our place, our tasks were mostly just a bit outside of Bakhmut. So we would be at least targeted just, a little bit less at least. So yeah, we've, of course, we've heard all the stories, both from our friends that are just fighting there, or from the wounded that we evacuated, the ones that were able to talk to us and wanted to do that. Because, well, all people are different, and some of them, of course, really wanted to tell their story and just let it go and let it out of themselves. And some of them just wanted to go in silence, and usually they were so tired they just fell asleep immediately. But overally, as answering the question, yeah, it was hell, and it changed our usage and dosage of many of the medicine we used, because we, for example, use a lot of ketamine, which is a wonderful drug in this kind of context. But what has changed, for example, many of them were so much triggered, and they've seen so much bad things, let's call it that, not to swear. So they had really bad trips over ketamine, or became aggressive, or started crying, or like all their emotions were going out. So we had to make some changes there, and we started using more sedatives as addition to the ketamine, so they could be at ease and not struggle with seeing those flashbacks and reliving all the things they've seen, and some of them as they shared with us. After about 1 year, we just stopped counting, because we really don't care about numbers, because every person for us is not a number, it's a face, it's a human being that we usually save their life. So yeah, we have many memories. It's like, it's in thousands. What I can tell you right now is, for us, the biggest difficulty is not about the massive bleeding, the lack of limbs, like their bodies being covered in shrapnel, blood, dirt, and everything. Of course, it's a hard, tough view, but not as much for most of medics, because it's like, it's written inside the characteristic of this job, of this profession. But what was always very hard for us, the hardest, were just the emotions, because we're all people. And even though we can, cut away all the views of the blood and limbs and explosions and everything, we cannot pretend we're not feeling anything. And even if, cut it out just for a second, it comes back later, and usually stronger. We have been targeted and bombed many times in different locations. And thank God we didn't lose anyone specifically from Avangarda team. So that is quite a good statistic, and it's amazing, really. And I'm so thankful for this, because many times we've been wounded, or something blew up just, let's call it next door, or even our base blew up, where we were normally living and sleeping, and all our medical supplies were there. And it blew up the moment that no one from our team was there. We were just in different locations. So we are very lucky. But going back to that, our medical friends from the Ukrainian unit we cooperated with were not that lucky, unfortunately. So, for example, in the explosion of the base that two Shahid drones hit, 5 of our friends died. And actually, 2 of them were sleeping in our beds, the beds we used to sleep every day. And just because we were not there, they just used our beds so they could get a nice sleep.
How would you describe the mood on the front lines with both the soldiers and civilians as the war drags into its 3rd year?
Yeah, it's not very optimistic, to be honest. I remember just a couple of months ago, I was still very optimistic, and the war was kind of going to, well, a nice direction, let's call it that. Of course, from my perspective. So it looked like the Ukrainians are kind of holding on apart from everything and doing a really good job. And yeah, it's gotten much worse now. And you can see it when you're looking at the map and the whole war outcome as you look at it as a whole. And also when you're just there from, from your own perspective and from a perspective of a small unit that's working there, it also doesn't look too good. And you can see it in the behavior and even in the eyes of everyone working there. Everyone is so much tired, and everyone is just fed up with all this, not even like the fighting only, but also with everything that involves, politics in Ukraine as well. It's all just, crushing the spirit of most of the Ukrainians that are giving their life and their friends' life and their families' life there, and everyone from other countries that's involved as well. So, yeah, it's become hard.
After 25 months of this war, what do you think gives you and the other volunteers you work with the strength to keep going?
I'm not sure anymore. It's a bit of a funny question because when I was answering this question like 1 year ago, for example, I had so much to say about it. And now I have to admit I'm just as much tired as anyone working there. I still try to remember that we are the lucky ones because we are not actually fighting there constantly for our country. We can go back home to a country that's safe, and we can rest in our bed. We can go get a frappuccino to to any, nice side of the city. So we are still very lucky, but apart from that, we are also very tired. So we are kind of we overcame already our line that we crossed the line that we had already. So I don't know anymore. I thought I would give up and resign many months ago already, but yeah, we kind of still keep on going, which is a mystery for me actually.